What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you about my Gen 3 MT09SP. I've done a couple of thousand Ks on it since owning it, and coming into 2025 now at the end of 2024, I still think this is one of the best bikes you can get for your money these days. So let's talk about that.
One of the reasons I went for this model over the older MT10 I was looking at was the electronics package is actually really amazing. If you're new to riding and you want to sort of start getting into trying to do a wheelie every now and then, the wheelie control on this thing is great. You can really pop it up and not have to worry too much about flipping over. If you want to get used to the feeling of being on the back wheel, it does work quite well and will allow you to hold a wheelie not at balance point, but reasonably high. So if we pop it down to second gear and do a bit of a clutch wheelie, so it'll definitely allow you to get the wheel up reasonably high and not to worry too much about flipping backwards.
So this is my first MT bike in general. I have owned an XSR700, but it's a very different bike to this. But the MT-09 seemed to have a really strong cult following in all of the generations, and it's one of those bikes that now I've owned it, I can see why. I've owned bikes that are a lot faster than this, like my TUONO V4 factory. I've owned bikes slower, bigger, lighter. I've had quite a few motorcycles over my 20-odd years of riding. And my impression so far is that the MT-09 series is just one of the best bikes you can buy for your dollar. The first thing to talk about, really, the elephant in the room with the MT series of motorcycles from Yamaha, is just how it looks. It's just so subjective, and all I can give you guys is my opinion. As far as I'm concerned, the Gen 2 was the best looking front for me, but the overall bike, including the Gen 4, this Gen 3 seems to be the one that I prefer in terms of overall looks. It's pretty striking, it looks pretty sporty, and it looks quite unique if you see one on the road and you're not a motorcycle rider. It's going to stand out, and whether that's a good thing or not is up to you. But when I initially got this bike, I wasn't super sold on the headlight, but now I have the fairing on there, and I've got some other bits coming that we'll talk about in another video. I really love how it looks. Overall, from the side profile, the back profile, and the front, I really enjoy the look of this motorcycle. Talking about build quality, it's pretty good. It's not a Triumph or, you know, a BMW, but as far as Yamaha goes, it's a really well-made bike. The only things I don't like in terms of the controls is the dial that everybody complains about. I thought it might not have been as big of a deal as it was, but it is. It sucks, and there's no getting around it. The good thing is I don't have to ever go into the menus, really. I think I've been into the menus twice in the 2000 Ks that I've owned this bike, so I really don't think it's a big deal.
Talking about the controls again, really the only other complaint I have is cruise control won't work unless you're in fourth gear. And it's not a biggie. I mean, really you're going to be mostly using cruise control on the highway, which is fine. But if you're just cruising around roads like this at 60, 70 K an hour, it'll be nice to be able to do it in third gear, although not a deal breaker. It's really easy to use. You just push the middle button and then set your speed, and up and down to, you know, slow down or speed up. What people are talking about with the menu button is when you click into the menu, it just is really easy to select something by mistake because of the scroll wheel. But yeah, if you want to choose drive modes, you just hit this button and it will switch between TCS and drive mode, and then let off the throttle. You can do it while you're driving, which is great. Just the up and down arrow to change modes, and that will work while you're riding, as you just seen. I do find the seat pretty firm. If I was going to upgrade something next, it's probably going to be the seat. After, you know, a full day of having fun in the saddle, it does get pretty hard, and my glutes get pretty sore. So that's something I'll be looking into getting upgraded very soon.
Obviously with the SP version you are getting cruise control as well, which is pretty handy if this is your only bike and you're using it for commuting or long trips. And I do like how this Gen 3 SP comes with black bars and black levers straight out of the factory. I've noticed the new one doesn't, so that's something I'd be changing, but I probably will be getting shorty levers for this anyway. In terms of actual rider controls and the rider triangle, I do find it pretty comfortable. I'm 6'1", and this bike fits me just perfectly. Your feet are held pretty high at a sporty position, but it's not at the level where my knees get uncomfortable. Like, it's not as aggressive as my TUONO was. And as far as the bar position goes, it fits me just perfectly, so I'm really happy with that as well. It's great control. It's just aggressive enough to ride really hard on the road or the track, but really comfortable if you want to do a road trip on it. The only thing I'd say as far as handling goes is the suspension, while it is really awesome, it is quite firm. Especially, I've set it up for my weight. I'm about 100 kilos, like I said, and I have put quite a lot of preload on the rear to make up for that. And it does handle way better, but it is a firm ride. It's not the firmest bike I've ever ridden, But yeah, overall it is a pretty firm ride on the road, especially with our roads here in Auckland. They're just shit and bumpy. So something to keep an eye out for if you're planning on commuting or doing long trips with this, especially the SP version. I have had a fair few comments asking me how it is on the highway and high winds or something like that.
I don't know if you can see in the video today, but it is pretty windy and I don't have any issues with stability. The bike is fine. It's not actually that light. I think people think the MT-09 is a bit lighter than it actually is, but it's plenty heavy enough to be, you know, light enough to be fun, but heavy enough to be stable.
You're obviously getting hit with a lot of wind. Even with this little windscreen on it, it makes no difference at all. When I bought the bike, it did come with the pure high screen. It came up to about here, and that made a pretty good difference, but you still get a lot of head bobbling. So if wind is what you're worried about, I would stick to touring or adventure motorcycles.
I've heard a lot of people talking in other videos of the MT-09 about the power level and the speed of it, and I totally agree with the guys that are saying it's right in that sweet spot of having, you know, I'd still say probably too much power for the street, but you're not going to ever feel like you need more power, and you know, it's a wicked fast bike. I found with this one you can really open it up to full throttle and have a lot of fun, but with other bikes like the V4 Factory I own, opening it up and full throttle on the road is really an exercise for the mentally unstable. It's just such a fast bike and has so much torque. I think guys that own like an MT10 will probably tell you that bike, while extremely exciting, very thrilling, and has way more power than anybody needs, it's just that. It's just overkill.
So my overall conclusion with the MT09 SP is it's just the best middle ground. It has just enough power where you're not wanting more, but it's certainly not lacking. It handles amazing for the dollar. It looks great. It sounds amazing, especially with this full Acro exhaust I have on it.
You can't really do a motorcycle review without talking about mileage. I haven't calculated it, what I get per litre, but on a full tank of gas, I get about 160, 170k range, so it's not amazing, but for a bike of this size and this purpose, I think it's totally fine. Obviously, if you're doing a road trip on it, which is totally capable of doing on this bike, you're going to be stopping off a little bit more than you'd like.
I do have a few minor complaints, one of them being the brakes. They work, they're fine, they have enough power, but they don't really have great feel to it, which is where the Gen 4 comes into it. I haven't ridden one yet, but I've seen one in the shop, and coming with those Brembo stylemas and the Brembo radial master cylinder, it is going to feel a lot better.
So the braking system is fine, the ABS works, it does have lean sensitive traction control and ABS, which is great, but I just find the front brake is just a little bit kind of soft and spongy. It doesn't really give me the feel or the confidence with the power as much as I'd like. So if I was going to upgrade something and spend some serious money upgrading this bike, it would probably be the front brakes to like a Brembo kit or something like that, if it's even possible. I'm sure I could probably get something from the Gen 4 maybe, but I know it's going to be a pretty expensive upgrade.
So it may be something I might upgrade in the future, but we'll see how that goes. It's going to be an expensive upgrade, but having great brakes, in my experience, does give you a lot of comfort and confidence when riding at higher speeds. Something a lot of people don't talk about in review videos that I've seen is the aftermarket support and parts you can buy for motorcycles. And the MT09 series has just an endless amount because it's such a popular motorcycle. There's so many companies making bits for them. So really you have endless options if you want to customize your motorcycle to be your own. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video real soon.